Are you longing for barbecue but don't have a grill or a smoker? Your oven and a simple spice rub are all you need to make my St. Louis style pork ribs. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Let's Celebrate TV. I'm your host, Peter Lee. On this channel, we teach you all about celebrating. We show you recipes for food, hors d'oeuvres, cocktails, and we share entertaining tips. Now we try and make this as simple as we can for everyone, especially those of you out there who say that you just can't do it, because we know you really can. So if you like this episode, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and watch a new episode every single week. Today's celebration is all about barbecue, but maybe not what you're expecting. We're going to be making barbecue ribs in the oven. So let's get started. I have here a rack of ribs that I got from my local supermarket. This is a St. Louis style spare ribs. Now these are pork spare ribs. And St. Louis style is just the style that it's been cut and where it comes from on the animal. There's different types of ribs. There's country style, there's baby back ribs, but that's a discussion we'll have another time. Today I'm using the St. Louis style because that's what I can get. I'm going to put this aside. We want to start with a nice rub because ribs are delicious, but they need a little help. Now, there's all kinds of rubs that you can buy pre-made and they're all delicious, or you can make your own. They're very, very simple. Here's my recipe. It's a great way to start. You can change it up if you want. My recipe starts with a 1/4 cup of smoked paprika. That's smoked paprika, and you can really, just sitting out here, you can really smell it. Right in. Next is 2 tablespoons of chili powder. Now the chili powder is going to add a little depth of flavor, not really heat, but just more complexity and a little more smoky flavor. Next, salt. 2 tablespoons. I'm using kosher salt. 2 tablespoons of black pepper. Again, a little bit of heat. Salt and pepper always makes everything taste good. Okay, next we're going to add a little sweetness. I have here 2 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. This is dark brown sugar, and that's really what you want because it has more molasses in it and it's going to help add more complexity to the dish. Right in. Next is 1 tablespoon of plain white sugar, just like you'd have on your table. Again, it's going to add sweetness. Now those sugars, while they're cooking, are going to melt down and they're going to start to caramelize, and that's also going to help with the flavor of the ribs. Next is 1 tablespoon of dried oregano. Oregano goes very well with pork. And finally, I want a little more heat. So I'm putting in a teaspoon, just a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You can add more if you like it spicier. Right in. Now, we're just going to, with a whisk, mix this all up, mix it together. Simple. Easy, easy, easy. Brown sugar's a little lumpy, but that's okay. So just mix it up till it just all comes together. If you wanted, you could probably do this in a food processor, but why drag out your food processor and dirty that? Besides, this will give it a little texture too. You want the sugars not to be pulverized, so they'll melt down. Okay, I'm going to put this aside for a moment. Clean up the deck. Here is my rack of ribs. Beautiful, huh? Now I have this on a foil-lined sheet pan, and I have them sitting up on a rack. You don't need the rack. Putting them on a rack just helps it cook a little more evenly, but you can do it without, certainly. So, first, with impeccably clean hands, as always, we're going to put the spices on the meat. And it's called a rub because that's just what you do. Liberally and rub it in. Now see, this way you're doing it on the pan and some of it's going to fall off, and that's just going to help cook and also flavor as the drippings fall down on it. So it's okay if some of it falls in the pan, don't worry. Now I have the foil on there to help clean up later. That's a huge thing when you're cooking ribs. So all over, rub it in. We also want to get the back side. Now, on this back side, there's a membrane here on the back side of the bones. A lot of recipes will call for taking that membrane off, and a lot of chefs like to do that. I don't like to do that, and I'll tell you why. Cooking these in the oven, we're going to go low and slow, and we're going to take it up to a pretty high temperature internally. While it's cooking, when we get up to like the 180, 190 degrees, this membrane is going to do two things. It's going to help keep the meat moist, but it's also going to start to melt and release all the collagens, and all of that is going to seep down into the meat and make it even more tender and fall off the bone and delicious. So I like to leave the membrane on, but we still need to give it a little help, a little flavor. And this is a fun project. Get your hands dirty. You could, maybe if you wanted to, wear gloves, but I always say, impeccably clean hands, touch your food. Alrighty, that's pretty good. Now, we are going to let this sit on the counter for an hour. We want all this rub and all these wonderful spices to soak into the meat, and it'll start to form a crust. It'll be really lovely. So, I'm going to go wash my hands, and when I come back, we'll get this ready for the ovens. All right, we are back. It's been a whole hour. Now you see it's kind of moist here and the color has changed. All of the spices and things are starting to soak into the meat. The salt is pulling some of the water out, which is going to intensify the flavor and help all those spices get in. So now it's time to get this little guy cooking. Now I have it here sitting up, meat side up. The first thing we're going to do is flip this over and do meat side down. Why am I doing that? It's going to help it cook more evenly. It's going to help the collagen and the fat in the back part of the bones melt and go through the meat. So let's flip this over. Now, you don't have to worry about the rub coming off. It's all soaking into the meat, so it won't come off. Now, that is done. We're going to cover this with foil, and I'm going to put it in a low oven, 300 degrees, and I'm going to cook it for 2 hours. Now, I'm using a rub today, so I'm not going to use barbecue sauce until later. There's a couple schools of thought. What I'm going to do today is just cover it with foil in the oven for about 2 hours or until I hit 180 degrees internal temperature. And I'll check that at the 2-hour mark with my instant read thermometer. So let's foil this up and get it in the oven. Easy, right? You're just putting foil on it. Now, off to the oven. Alrighty, here we are. We're out of the oven. Let's recap. So, we had our ribs, we made the rub, did the whole rub, we popped them in a 300-degree oven for 2 hours. So at the 2-hour point, I checked the temperature and I was right at 160, whereas what we planned to be. Now, if you were going to add barbecue sauce at that point, that's when you would do it. I didn't do that today, but I did leave them in the oven for a little while longer to get up to close to 180. 180 is going to give you that fall apart, melt off the bone feel. I pulled them out a little earlier. So here they are. I've already pre-cut them, and I let them cool, and then I pre-cut it in half so I can show you a little easier. So remember, these were cooked meat side down. So here's the bone side. Glorious, caramelized, beautiful. But look how pretty they are. Now, let's do a tasting. I'm going to cut one off. Very easy to cut. You just cut right between the bones. It's very simple. Now, I said I wasn't using barbecue sauce in cooking, but that doesn't mean you can't have it while you're eating. I have a sampler of barbecue sauces here, like you would get at a barbecue restaurant when they have the squeeze bottles of various types. This one is apple juice based. It's very, very good. This is a Carolina barbecue sauce. It's mustard based. And then we have one that has moonshine in it. I'm going to try the apple juice one. Now these are store-bought. If you wanted to, and I hope you will actually, you can make my homemade barbecue sauce, which you can find in this episode here. Okay, let's get to the tasting. Look at that. Beautiful. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit on, just like that. Now, let's go for it. Wow, messy, tender, more importantly, delicious. These are always a hit. That is our episode. Wait, I need a little wine. Always gotta have my wine to wash it down. Or a beer would be good too. So guys, as always, we'll have this recipe up in the comment section of YouTube, like we always do every time, for the rub, the instructions on how to cook the beef, the ribs. Now, also, follow us on Facebook. If you make these, take pictures, post them on our Facebook wall. We love it. We love hearing from you on Facebook. So that's our recipe. I hope you'll make them. We will see you again next Tuesday at 7 o'clock when we invite you all back to come on in and let's celebrate. Cheers.